Hi guys, in this video I'm going to talk about dopamine detox, and since you clicked on this video, I think that you might have a little idea about what dopamine detox actually is. But still, to start, I'm going to take a minute or two to describe what I think dopamine detox actually means. Now, before we dive deeper into that, let us talk about dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical neurotransmitter which is released in our brains that gives us a feeling of instant gratification. Instant gratification is when we do something and we get instant feeling of satisfaction. So for example, with this psychology is applied most when we are scrolling through reels in Facebook, YouTube or Instagram. So when we are scrolling through reels, we get an instant hit, 1 minute hit, and this causes the release of dopamine in our brains, which causes us to feel a sense of satisfaction. This is a cheap dopamine cycle which our brain actually develops, and that is why we get a lot of joy in seeing reels. Dopamine is also released while eating junk food, the food we really like, and while listening to music, while seeing certain videos, and all this can be categorized. There is nothing as bad or good in this dopamine, because you see, dopamine has an evolutionary purpose. It was originally in our brains because we were animal hunters, and when we wanted food, we used to hunt animals, and after hunting animals, the feeling of satisfaction which the hunter-gatherers got, that was due to dopamine, and that is why it has an evolutionary purpose. But due to our information age, our reels and everything around us has caused us our brain to release dopamine so easily that we now refer to it as cheap dopamine. What are the sources of cheap dopamine mainly? Like I told, again, reels, certain videos that lose the drive and make us lose our drive and cause us to spiral into a vicious cycle. And what does this vicious cycle look like? This vicious cycle actually is that there is a actually base dopamine level. Okay, so this is a base dopamine level, and when you see some videos or listen to certain music or watch reels, what happens is this dopamine level spikes. And when this dopamine level spikes, it is a good thing because you feel satisfaction. But when you continuously see those reels or watch those type of videos, what happens is that the base dopamine level shifts upwards. And now this is your base dopamine level which you need to stay happy or stay satisfied. So now you would have to watch more reels to get the same level of satisfaction which you got earlier. And if you do not watch those reels, what will happen is you'll get sad and you will feel unsatisfied, and that is why it will cause depression cycles or will cause harm in your productivity. This is the vicious cycle of cheap dopamine, which due to so much distraction nowadays has affected our brains a lot. This is where dopamine detox comes in. Now, one more psychological tidbit I want to add. Now, people only talk about this dopamine vicious cycle and dopamine detox and everything, and you would see a lot of YouTube videos about it. But what you do not see is that there is one more thing in our brain which is related to it. What I think is related to it. It is the aMCC, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. Now, this part of our brain is a seat of tenacity and willpower. So that actually this area of the brain, if it is strong, if it is larger, it helps us live longer. Why? Because it is not only just willpower and tenacity, it is actually the will to live which is seated in this part of the brain. Now, how can you grow the aMCC larger? To grow the aMCC larger, you have to do things that you do not like to do. It does not necessarily mean that you do things that are good for you. Bear in it. Because for example, if you like going to the gym, you like building your body, and if you go to the gym, that is not going to make your aMCC larger. What is going to make your aMCC larger? If you do not like running and you still force your brain to run longer, and this is how the aMCC is going to get larger. Why is this important? Because as I already told, it is the seat of willpower and your will to live. The larger aMCC any person has, the more willpower or the tenacity that person has. Now, after learning these two terms, dopamine and about aMCC, what I concluded about my dopamine detox. Now see, what I am saying in this video is purely my belief and my research and I listen to podcasts, I have seen many YouTube videos about this kind of stuff. And that is why this is my opinion. This is research banned, of course, but what my plan of dopamine detox is going to be, what I'm going to tell you right now, is just my personalized plan. I do not guarantee that it is all perfect and all psychology backed and everything has a reason for it. It is just my experimentation, trial and error, which works for me. So let us dive into it. After learning about dopamine and aMCC, I wondered that how can I manipulate my own timetable for a certain period of time so that I can get most out of revitalizing my brain. This is what dopamine detox is all about. It is about restarting your brain. And how can we do that? My personal plan involves a 7-day to 21-day period about how much I want to restart my brain. But here arises one more question. Why actually do you want to do dopamine detox? The aim figuring out is very important before starting your dopamine detox. Because you see, here in the information age, we are surrounded by so many distractions which are cause our brains to be so mentally disturbed that we cannot enhance our productivity like we want to. And even if we want to, we cannot eliminate all that stuff because our brain wants it, our mind wants it, and there is a craving for it. And suppressing that craving actually takes more energy. And when these cravings happen, now why do we want to do dopamine detox? This is very important. The aim of dopamine detox, you need to figure this out before starting it. So before starting your dopamine detox, what you want to ask yourself is, why do you want to do dopamine detox? What is your aim behind it? So what my aim was is that in this information age, we are surrounded by so many distractions that our mind has become mentally disturbed. And due to that, we get so many cravings that it is very harder to suppress it. And our mind eventually does what we like, but that is not actually good for us. So for example, you are studying and you get a craving for seeing Netflix or seeing some shorts. And you will get it because, like I said, you have a dopamine vicious cycle which you are stuck in. And if you try to suppress it, your mind will try to tell you that you want to do it even more. And what eventually happens is that you end up watching the reels. This is why dopamine detox is very important, according to me, to revitalize our brain, to remove all the cravings which our brain gets due to the distractions. So the key rules that I have for dopamine detox is that all the things which gives you cheap dopamine, for example, seeing reels, seeing certain videos, seeing Netflix, which are not actually good for us, but are inbuilt such that they use these psychology tricks such that they give cheap dopamine to us and we want to watch it even more. So all these things are eliminated in the dopamine detox. All the junk food, because junk food again gives us that cheap dopamine, which junk food is eliminated. Music is also eliminated. No, music is actually not very bad, I'll tell. Because, okay, dopamine is released, I do not deny that. But it is not very bad as compared to reels or shorts or something like that. Music, while I'm closing it, I'm not closing it for the whole day. Only 4 hours after waking up and 2 hours before sleep. In that period, 4 hours after waking up and 2 hours before sleep, I do not listen to any music. Only in the middle of the day, if I want, I can listen to music. Yeah, apart from this, I would like also to include is no snoozing of the alarm. Now, this was not originally in my list, but what I thought just now is that when you snooze an alarm, you actually get a feeling of satisfaction and that you're going to sleep 10 minutes more or 15 minutes more. This feeling of satisfaction is due to the dopamine which is released in your brains when you snooze that alarm. This is what we want to eliminate in this dopamine detox. So what you should do is, do not snooze your alarm. As soon as your alarm goes off, stop your alarm and get up from your bed and in one instant. Do not stay lying down or anything, because that is just going to lead you to become lazy. And that is going to defeat the purpose of dopamine detox. Dopamine detox is basically just getting your dopamine baseline levels, which was very much high due to your distractions, to a normal level or a lesser level, due to which whenever you do little things, little things that give you little amounts of dopamine, you actually feel that satisfaction, and you do not become depressed due to small things, because this is what is happening nowadays. Many people are requiring psychotherapies and everything because their dopamine baseline levels are very high. They're very destructive. Now, this is what I told you, my rules and everything. Apart from this, to get the most work done in my dopamine detox, I make a plan that, okay, these are all things I want to do in this dopamine detox. So, if I want to do some studies, I want to complete these chapters, questions and reading everything, I will write it. I will also write that, okay, I want to build this software in my AI agent. I want to build this AI agent. So I will write here, and I'll continue writing all these goals which I want to achieve in this dopamine detox, because trust me, the first few days are not easy. They are very, very, very hard. And 90% of you people might end up losing the race in the first few days as well, because your brain is accustomed to various distractions, the various cheap dopamine that you get, and revitalizing your brain like that is not going to be easy. Me myself get failed many times, and still now I make my plans, I make everything, but still I fail in the third day or the fifth day. I just returned back to that old cycle. And once what happens is, when that spark comes that I want to so for example, I'm doing something the fifth day of the dopamine detox, and what happens is that I get a craving in my brain that I want to see this shot, and once I start seeing these shots, I end up wasting half an hour on it. And after wasting half an hour, what happens is that your brain wants more, and if you suppress it, okay, going back to my dopamine detox, what happens is that again there's a craving, and then you cannot suppress it, because you know your self-esteem becomes down because you were not able to suppress it the first time, and that is why you again go into that cycle. And once that spark happens, you end up losing the whole race, and you end up not doing the dopamine detox fully, and you return back to your old race. This is going to happen in the first few times. That is why you have to become consistent. You have to train your brain, you have to train your aMCC. So to summarize, in this dopamine detox, you need to focus on two things. First, your anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or aMCC, to train yourself, to discipline yourself and do what you do not like. Second is dopamine, and restoring your baseline dopamine levels by cutting yourself off from all the distractions you have in your daily life. To summarize, the whole pattern of dopamine detox looks like this. First, you need to write what you are going to eliminate in this dopamine detox. And for example, 4 non-negotiables are that no Netflix, no shorts, no junk food, and last but not the least, no music after 4 hours after waking up and 2 hours before sleeping. These are my basic 4 non-negotiables. You can add yourself also, like for example, I added that I will not snooze my alarm. Whatever comes in my brain, I will think about it for 10 seconds and then do it. This is a very great control mechanism, by the way. After writing your non-negotiables, you'll write your goals and what you are planning to achieve in this dopamine detox, because when you cut off your distractions, you will see that you have a lot of free time which you can use in enhancing your productivity. So this was it for today's video. I hope you found the content valuable. Please share what your dopamine detox plan looks like in the comment section, and also share if you have some valuable feedback. Thank you and have a wealthy life ahead.